Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I guess we'll do the Mangalarcharan too. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatyam vyasam tato jayam mudirayet nasta prayasta padrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki om agyana tamarandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshur militam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadartikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagratatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamshta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Verse. I'll just read through the first one and then I'll do the second one. Maybe you can read it. Atabi Pritam Anvikshya Brahmano Madhusudanaha Vishana Chetasam Tena Kalpa Vyakti Karambasa Loka Samstana Vijnana Atmana Parikidyataha Atmana Parikidyataha Tamaha Gadhaya Vacha Kashmalam Shamayam Iva Loka Samstana Vijnana Atmana Parikidyataha Tamaha Gadhaya Vacha Kashmalam Shamayaniva Loka Samstana Vijnana Atmana Parikidyataha Tamaha Gadhaya Vacha Kashmalam Shamayaniva. Please. samsthana vijnana atmana parikirtita tam ahagadaya vacha kasmanam samayantiva loka samsthana vijnana atmana parikirtita tam ahagadaya vacha kasmanam samayantiva loka samsthana vijnana atmana parikirtita tamaha dhadaya vacha kasmanam samayantiva loka samsthana vijnana super heavy. Ata, thereupon. Or maybe Mataji, would you like to chant the verse? Abhipretam, intention. Anvikshya, observing. Brahmanaha, of Brahma. Madhusudanaha, the killer of the Madhu demon. Vishana, depressed. Chetasam, of the heart. Tena, by him. Kalpa, millennium. Vyaktikara ambasa, devastating water. Loka samsthana, situation of the planetary system. Vijnane, in the science. Atmanaha, of himself. Parikijataha, sufficiently anxious. Tam, unto him. Aha, aha, said. Agadaya, deeply thoughtful. Vacha, by words. Kashmalam, impurities. Shamayan, removing. Eva, like that. The Lord saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed upon seeing the devastating water. He could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. Please repeat after me. The Lord saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed on seeing the devastating water. He could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The devastating water was so fearful that even Brahma was perturbed by it at its appearance and became very anxious about how to situate the different planetary systems in outer space to accommodate the different kinds of living entities, such as the human beings, those lower than human beings, and the superhuman beings. All the planets in the universe are situated according to different grades of living entities under the influence of the modes of material nature. There are 3 modes of material nature, and when mixed with one another, they become 9. When 9 are mixed, they become 81, and 81 become mixed, and ultimately, we do not know how the delusion increases and increases. Lord Brahma had to accommodate different places and situations for the requisite bodies of conditioned souls. The task was meant only for Brahma, and no one in the universe can even understand how difficult it was. But by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to execute the tremendous task so perfectly that everyone is amazed to see the workmanship of the Vidhata, or regulator. So Prabhupada says that Lord Brahma, we can't even fathom his lifespan. I mean, what to speak of even us, or how old are we? 20, 30, 40, 50? We can hardly fathom what 100 years is. It seems like an eternity to us, especially the younger you are, it seems longer. I remember when I was very young, I couldn't wait till I was 18, and it just seemed like so long. Like, why am I such a little kid? Like, it sucks. Like, I can't do anything. And then as soon as after I turned 18, I'm thinking, why can't I be a kid anymore? It sucks being getting old. But Prabhupada was saying that Lord Brahma, to the degree that we can't even fathom his fantastically long lifetime, which is 311 trillion years and some change, you can't fathom 1,000 hardly, maybe 10,000, but 100,000 or a million, it's almost unfathomable. What to speak of a billion? What to speak of a trillion? So he has 311 trillion years of living according to our calculation. And accordingly, how we can't understand or even fathom or grasp the idea of the length of his life. Similarly, we have no idea about the length and breadth and power of his intellect, of his creative potency. So that's one thing. And, it's saying that everyone is amazed to see the workmanship of this. And Lord Brahma has this very huge problem. There's 3 modes of material nature, and you mix them, then they become 9. And then, you combine, you can, according to combinatorics, and statistics, there's a way to combine all the things. And there's some math. And this one, you just keep increasing it. The 9 mixed then with themselves, and they can become 81. Then the 81 mixed, it becomes 81 squared. Then it becomes 81 to the 4th power. And you just keep, every time you mix it, it becomes unlimitedly more complex. And these are all the different, practically unlimited living entities that all have some different level of the modes that they're in. And Lord Brahma has to come up with a house for them, a situation. He has to come up with a specific body for them to be able to process through their karma. And well, ultimately, the purpose of Lord Brahma is to help them process through all their karma so that they can get rid of their material body and just purely worship the Lord. So we hear that Brahma was very anxious. He was anxious, he was depressed, seemed like he was tired. What is it? Depressed? Vishana. And so sometimes, how we can ask, how is it that Lord Brahma could be tired? Was that in a previous verse? It was mentioned that he was tired. You remember from the class? I haven't been here for a couple of days. Yeah. But he was, if we're actually endeavoring in spiritual life, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, it said that Sanjaya, he kept remembering everything that Krishna was telling Arjuna, and every single time, every single word he remembered, he was re-experiencing with a thrill. Prabhupada says that, if we just apply the principles of Bhagavad Gita to our lives, then every moment we can experience as a thrill. And so we should be, very alert and very ecstatic. And we can see that in so many devotees' lives. Like Prabhupada, he hardly got any sleep, but he was thrilled to be able to get up and just translate the Bhagavatam and push on the Sankirtan movement and spread Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So, it's one thing if we're feeling depressed or tired, it means that we're not really connecting with the spiritual energy properly, because the spiritual energy is completely invigorating and enlivening. And so we can ask, how is Lord Brahma, after doing all this penance, hear the word tapa and, heat or penance. And so he's did some austerities because he's just found himself in the lotus, looks down, there's all this crazy water, which is kind of like the Garbhadak ocean. But I recently heard, I was listening to a class. Oh, is this work? Something's not working. And he was saying actually the water that he's seeing, this devastating water, was just the water in the navel of the Lord. Not even like the Lord's lying on the Garbhadak ocean, He's just seeing the navel, and then our whole planetary system and everything is just like a small little egg inside the stem coming of that lotus. So this is like also very inconceivable. And every single pore coming out of Mahavishnu is an entire universal system with its own Brahma, and there's practically unlimited of those. And that's just 1/4 of the whole spiritual existence of all existence. So why is he experiencing this depression? Why is he experiencing this? Because actually, it's not that he's not connected to the spiritual energy. As we're the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Lord Brahma is our guru. He's the head of our Sampradaya. And so it's due to his humility. And we even, he actually prayed for more humility to the Lord. And so the Lord sent him as Haridas Thakur, born in a Malecha outcast family. And he had a whole lifetime of just chanting hundreds of rounds a day. And it's said that penance that he did during that lifetime helped him maintain his humility and his spiritual flow for the rest of his life, because he's only 50 years old, Lord Brahma. Is it 50 years in one day, or how? He's 51 in which day of that 51st year? Anyways, it's the seventh. We're in the 7th Manvantar, right? Of the 51st year, and who knows which day out of the 300. It's only 360 days, as how long what the days they go by. But anyways, it's not that important to know exactly what time it is, because it's the time of the Yuga Dharma. That's the most important thing. It's Kali Yuga, and there's a Kali Yuga Dharma. So he's depressed and he's in anxiety because he's humble. And being humble, one aspect of being humble is actually realizing like the true nature of your situation. Prabhupada was asked, Ramana Prabhu always says this, and I've seen it multiple times in the following Srila Prabhupada, but I can't remember who's actually asking him or even when it was. If Ramana is here, I could ask him who exactly it is. But they asked Prabhupada, what does it mean to be humble? And Prabhupada gave a very profound answer, that what it means to be humble is to understand that, at the time of death, your job's not going to save you, your family's not going to save you, your body's not going to save you, your diet or none of this, anything, all your bank account is not going to save you. Your grandchildren are not going to save you. Everything that we invest so much time and energy, our career is not going to save us, our education, our beauty. At the time of death, all we have is our devotional service to Krishna, and that Krishna, he's the only one that can actually save us. Realizing that is actual humility. So that's really just to realize the true situation, because people are falsely proud of whatever they have, if we try to distribute a book to like a movie star or something, get away from me or something, they may do something like that because they think that they're better. Or many people, they just walking by, their nose up, they don't even want to look at the Harinam because they think that they don't need that. They don't understand that they have a very short time, and then they're going to have to change their bodies. And so it's actually out of Lord Brahma's humility. He understands, I'm just an insignificant particle. I may have some potency, but this task that I've been given, that I understand I have to do, is ridiculous. I have to create practically unlimited different systems and bodies for all these living entities, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so this is actually, this anxiety is experienced by any humble devotee. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha prajami tvam dharma samudicetaha. So Krishna, he's saying, I'm like affected by miserly weakness. I just don't know what to do. Arjuna is in so much anxiety. His bow Gandiva fell from his hand, which he vowed that he would commit suicide if that happened. And so many things. I'm just bewildered. So then he surrenders to Krishna. Now that's the correct thing to do when we're bewildered. If we're bewildered because we have some situation that's outside of the scope of our abilities, which most situations, actually every situation is, because the only ability that we really have is to desire. But that even in our, with our whatever situation we're in, if we get depressed and we're actually very sinful and very demoniac, we'll try to take shelter of ourselves more, and we'll double down, and we won't, like, Hiranyakashipu, instead of surrendering to the Lord, he just doubled down and started to fight him, even though he knew that the Prahlad Maharaj was being protected by the Lord, and even though he was seemingly the most powerful person in the universe, he couldn't touch a single hair on his son's body. And so his Prahlad kept telling him, I'm getting my power from this. You the same person you're getting your power from, I'm getting my power from. You're not the most powerful. And he's like, okay, where is he? He's everywhere. He's in this pillar, yes. So he was being taught by Prahlad, but because of his puffed up mentality, he couldn't understand. And he didn't surrender to the Lord in when he actually needed to. And so he was devastated. But Arjuna, he surrendered to the Lord, and then the Lord explains to him, okay, relax. What's the verse, become an instrument? Savya Sachin, that's in there. What verse is that? Do you know, like, the chapter in the 1133? Yeah, that's right. I wish I knew my shlokas better, but maybe I need to retake Bhakti Shastri. So Arjuna is wondering how he can do it, and the entire time Krishna is explaining to him, okay, well, you're not your body, you're just a soul, and you should act properly. You shouldn't just renounce the whole thing, but you should actually fight. And furthermore, if you're worried about losing the fight, which Arjuna wasn't really worried about losing the fight, he was more worried about other things. But even if actually, I've killed them all. He becomes the universal form, and it kind of shows Arjuna what's actually happening in reality. And the reality is everyone's just running into the teeth of Krishna, which is like time, like he's just munching them. And he sees everyone, even the so-called invincible generals like Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev and some others. They were actually considered invincible. You just couldn't defeat them. Literally, you couldn't defeat Bhishma Dev. He could only die when he chose to die. So if he chose not to die in battle with you, then that was it. Even if you're Parshuram, a Shakti Vesh avatar of the Lord, empowered to kill Kshatriyas, you couldn't defeat Bhishma. It's ridiculous. So that's what he was up against. But he sees, through the arrangement of Krishna, Arjuna couldn't defeat him. No one, even up to Parshuram, couldn't defeat him. But Krishna could defeat him. Krishna can defeat everyone. Krishna's Ishvara Parama. He is, all the demigods are dancing to, the sway of his eyebrows. The sun is going around because it's, in obedience to him. Durga Devi is maintaining and creating and destroying everything, and in obedience to his decree. So everyone's doing that. So he can make the arrangement. He can do the impossible. He can empower the person. He empowered Arjuna. You just be my instrument. Nimata matram. Just the there's like I forget in logic. There's like the cause, there's like the local cause, and like the actual cause. Something like that. I'm not using the right language, but the immediate cause and okay, that's a good terminology. So the ultimate cause is obviously Krishna, but he wanted Arjuna to be and take the credit to be the apparent cause, and because Arjuna was his devotee, so Krishna is very sweet. He wants to give credit to his devotee. He didn't even want to fight in the battle, and Krishna had defeated 17 times Jarasandha's all his Akshohinis, like practically by himself, maybe just with Balaram helping. Maybe they had a few guys helping them, but he easily could defeat the entire army by himself, and he already proved that. What to speak of if he wanted to actually use, even more potency, but he just using arrows, he defeated, Akshohini after Akshohini. But he wanted Arjuna to get the credit because he wanted Arjuna to be famous, because that's his Bhakta Vatsala. He wants to reciprocate with his devotees. Even just driving the chariot is reciprocating with his devotees. So there's other similar devotees. I mean, every devotee will come to this, and in our devotional life will also need to come to this realization that whatever service we're given, and we're actually given a lot of service, like Lord Chaitanya says, Yataradi Nagar Adi Gram. He wants his name preached in every Nagar and Gram, every city and town, which is like that's what Lord Chaitanya is asking of. Like, okay, so we find out about Krishna, and we think Krishna is really nice, and then we've realized they tell us Krishna actually came as his own devotee to show us how to be a devotee, and we hear about Lord Chaitanya and like his amazing ecstatic like reveries and explaining to us, actually what Krishna prema is and how it's that the ultimate goal of life. So okay, we want to follow Lord Chaitanya, but then we have to listen to what he says. And what does he say? He says, go preach my name, and what I'm trying to tell it to every single person on the planet. So that's a big order. And that's similarly, it's like Prabhupada got that order, and getting that order, he was depressed. We hear what Arjuna Nanda, do you know the name of that bhajan that Prabhupada wrote on the Jaladuta when he was in Boston Harbor? Markine Bhag, thank you. Oh my gosh, but it's not there. Markine Bhagavat. Normally I have these things brought up, but I didn't have enough time to like prepare because I'm on this new diet and I had to like make stuff for that. So I did it. By the way, Jimmy, I made apples, so they're ready. Okay, so Baro Kripa Kali Krishna Adamer Prati Ki Lagi Ya Nile Heta Koro Ebe Gati. I don't know why you brought me here. I'm just a useless soul, but you're so kind to me. You can do whatever you like. Even though this is a terrible place, you must have brought me here because you have some business here. So he's saying, everyone here is covered over by the modes of ignorance and passion, and they're absorbed in material life, and they think they're actually happy and satisfied. Do you experience that, Jimmy? People are covered by modes of ignorance and passion. Oh, is that more ignorance, right? Yeah, that like, Washington Square Park is big ignorance. But what about when they're in like Times Square and people are rushing to? I mean, who knows where they're rushing to? They're rushing to be late to a thing. We always have events, and New Yorkers are always late. But when you go and see them traveling, they're always like running and rushing. So they're rushing somewhere just to be late, fashionably late to either their job or who knows what. But yeah, everyone's very, very absorbed. So you might think, standing in that hallway, I don't know how they'll be able to understand it. The Prabhupada also thought, sitting in the Boston Harbor, just like visualizing and seeing, like he had already been in, he already somehow visited somewhere, I think, in Boston Harbor. He visited Pennsylvania. No, anyways, that was after. Where did he see unalloyed steel? That was in Boston. Yeah, so he's like meditating. He's like, his Guru Maharaj at the age of 26 gave him the order, spread this to the English speaking countries. It'll be, and then at the last time he communicated with his Guru Maharaj, said the same exact thing. So for his whole life since he was 26, he was thinking, how can I do this? And practically speaking, he was probably depressed after, because first he had thought, okay, my horoscope says I'm going to be very rich. Okay, let me really work, and I'll work really good at this business, and it must be good because my horoscope said so, and I'll make all this money, and then I can easily, bring all these devotees over, and we can do big preaching in the West. That was his original plan. But then he kept failing in his business. And his Guru Maharaj told him, the reason you're failing in your business is because you don't love money. Like there's the different modes of material nature. Like we're hearing about 3 modes becomes 9, combinations becomes 81, becomes more and more. Who knows what 81 times 81 is? I don't, but it just keeps getting more and more than that. So everyone has their own combination of material modes. And so that brings different bodies. So like Lord Brahma, what he has to do is build these different bodies. So like a Brahmin is in the mode of goodness. He has a specific type of body. He's not very fat. He's quite thin. He's generally to do austerities, like we hear about Sudama Brahmin. Now sometimes Brahmins might have a little Brahmin belly, but that's because they're always doing a fire sacrifice in their stomach. And they're very smart. They're able to focus on different things in certain ways. And that's much different than when you decrease the mode of goodness and increase the mode of passion. Then you get in a human body, you get like a Kshatriya type body, which are, all Vaishnavas are Vaishnavas, but some people are very strong and broad-shouldered, and they're able to like take care of things. Like our dear Sundar Chaitanya, he has this very like strong body. It's amazing. Like you feel protected just being around him. And if some guy come up with the Harinam and he was around, I think they'd be scared. There's similar devotees that are like that. And that's because that's their duty. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect. So they need to be able to do that. And then when you get into the more mode of passion, mixed with the mode of ignorance, then it becomes Vaishya body. And maybe Vaishyas are fat, maybe they're not, but they have a lust for more money. They love money. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the reason you can't be successful in business is because you don't love money enough, which was actually a good compliment to Prabhupada, saying that he like loves Krishna. He doesn't really care about money, so it was, because he basically, Prabhupada was more or less neglecting his business because he was doing his sadhana, doing his preaching. He was helping opening up centers, and he was always doing something, having some sort of katha, having some sort of program. And so that's what his guru told him, that you're not successful because you don't love money. So then when someone's more ignorant and become like a Shudra body, and then in the animals, an animal with a lot of moral goodness, a cow is like, it's like amazing. You just put a cow anywhere and it becomes auspicious, because whatever it does, even if it just farts and pees and poops there, it becomes auspicious there. What to speak of it's actually like taken care of, can like make the soil better, can change the grass into milk, the miracle food that will help our brains grow and be able to understand spiritual knowledge. Just like petting the cow, you get the blessings of all the demigods. It's like so amazing, a cow. So that's like a lot of mode of goodness in the cow, which is only good. And then you get mode of passion. And a good example is like a lion. So a lion, they'll use their strength. Like a Kshatriya will use his strength to achieve whatever he needs. The Kshatriyas will never take a job. Brahmins will never take a job either, and neither will Vaishyas, but they have different motivations. And the Kshatriya will never take a job because he, just by his own organizational power, his own strength, he'll get whatever he needs and take care of his family or his community, or depending on what level of a Kshatriya he is, his nation. So similarly, a lion, they'll whatever they need, they'll just tear it apart and get it by their strength. They'll just go and get an antelope or whatever they need, and they'll just eat that, and then they'll just be resting. And then if another like big lion or another thing comes in their area, he actually protects all the other animals from that and fights it off. So that's why they called lion the king of the jungle, because they actually have that passionate kingly nature. Then you get mode of ignorance. Like we were just at this devotee's house and they had some dogs. They had a bunch of puppies, and we always hear like, oh, you're stool eating hogs and dogs, but like, how often do you experience that? I mean, maybe Prabhu, where are you from? Where in India? Mumbai. Have you ever seen a hog in the street, like eating stool? Yeah, and here we don't see that very much. So it's like we hear it a lot in Shastra, like, I've been around dogs too, but a lot of times you don't see them eating stool. But I saw it, like a lot of puppies. I'm sorry to say this in front of Radha Govind, it's kind of gross, but it's good to help us understand. So one of the puppy went to the bathroom, and another puppy went after, sniffed it, and just ate it up right after. It was so, it gave me like a very intense vegana of like stool eating hogs and dogs. So that's like mode of ignorance. Like, so it's true. It's not, whatever the Shastras are saying, they're spot on. Sometimes we don't see these things. When we understand our different limitations and we understand our position with the Lord, then we pray to the Lord. And so this is what Arjuna prayed to the Lord, and the Lord answered him and answered his prayer and relieved his depression and anxiety. Like if we're not depressed, if we're not in anxiety, then we're not paying attention. We're asleep. Or we've already gone through this process of praying to the Lord, getting his mercy, and then being empowered, which that's what everyone actually is meant to be empowered by the Lord in different ways. And that's what causes you to experience every moment with a thrill, everything to be ecstatic. That's that's like the meaning of life, to be connected with the Lord like that. And so Prabhupada, in his depression, he made these beautiful, beautiful prayers, Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma, which I mean, we read, actually when I first became a devotee, we would read through the 10 offenses, the Shikshastaka, and then we'd read through this prayer. And it's so powerful. Gopal Champu also, I think on the recommendation of either his Guru Maharaj or Navina Nirada, he also many times before he goes out and distributing books, one of his sadhana is to read this. It's in the SSR actually, but we have cell phones now. We can just search Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma. And there are Prabhupada's, he's praying to the Lord. And in the last stanzas, he's saying, I'm just a puppet in your hands. Please make me dance. Like I'm designated. I have a very nice name, Bhakti Vedanta, but I have no bhakti and I have no Veda. I have no knowledge. I have no devotion. But please fulfill the purport of that name. So he's fully just his utter humility, showing his position, so the Lord can empower him. The secret of humility it's not actually a secret. I mean, Lord Chaitanya is like saying this is the most important verse. Trinada pisu nichena toreva sahishnana manina manadina. Kirtaniya Sadahari. He says, wear it around your neck like a garland. This is like the ultimate teaching. And so when we're actually humble, then we can actually cry out to the Lord. And when we're actually crying out to the Lord, then the Lord actually, because the Lord is real, contrary to what the atheists think, the Lord actually responds, and then he empowers us more and more. And that's actually even just the process of chanting Hare Krishna. That is what's happening. We should be feeling an anxiety for whatever's happening, and then we're calling out to the Lord. Like a baby's in anxiety, it doesn't know what to do. It can't do anything. It's just a useless baby. All it can do is just cry, and then the mother provides whatever is necessary. So that's like the closest thing we can get to spiritual relationship with the Lord in the material world. But it's actually much, much more, because the Lord knows our thoughts. The mother might not know the thoughts of the child. The mother just can tell, based on different things. Most likely the child's hungry, or the child needs a diaper change, or whatever it is. So Krishna, he is so intimately connected with us. He knows everything. He knows all our different faults. He knows how to correct them. He knows all our illnesses, all our mental weaknesses, all the problems in our heart. And he knows the method to be able to get rid of all of those for us and establish us in pure transcendental love with him and all his friends. And so that's what this process of even just chanting Hare Krishna is like. And so also today is Srivas Thakur's appearance day, which personally I've been feeling a lot of like connection with Srivas Thakur, because somehow today is also the 10-year anniversary of the NYC Harinam, which I've been fortunate to be able to be a part of for the last 9 years. And also we recently visited the house. The dogs don't go in the house, by the way. They just like stay outside the house. But in his house, he has Radha Gopinath deities, which were actually originally worshipped by Srivas Thakur. And it was amazing to have their darshan. And so there's a verse, Panchatap Makam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Surupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Akam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So the Panchatattva, that picture next to Lord Chaitanya, it's like there's Krishna in his Bhakta Rupa, and which is obviously who's the Bhakta Rupa of Krishna? Who's the form of the devotee when Krishna comes as his devotee? Who is it? Who? Yeah, Mahaprabhu. And then Sarupakam, which is like his non-different self. So that means Advaita Acharya. And then, oh wait, I may have saying this wrong. Oh, Nityananda. Okay, and then Bhakta Avataram. Wait, Bhakta Avatar is Lord Chaitanya. Or Advaita. Okay, all right, so I've had it right. Okay, good. Bhakta Avatar. So Advaita came, and he came, and by his loud calling, he like, Lord Chaitanya came and one thing that's just amazing about devotional service is that even though we're jivas, we're insignificant. Obviously, we have to like pray to the Lord and serve him because it's just, we're like a particle of dust. He's like everything. But even those that are the, we're the Vibhinamsha Tattva, or the, expansions, but there's the Svamsa expansions, the same, the ones that have the Vishnu Tattvas, the ones that have the same potency of him, they also want to serve Krishna. So Lord Advaita Acharya, he also wants to serve Krishna, even though he's Mahavishnu, Sadashiva. He wants to serve Krishna because that's where the nectar's at. And then Bhaktyakam, that would be Srivas Thakur, and then Bhakta Shaktikam is Gadadhar Pandit. Other way around. Gadadhar Pandit is the Bhakta, and the Bhakta Shakti is Srivas Thakur. Okay. I see. And I was always thinking the Gadadhar is like Radharani. She's like the ultimate Shakti, so he's like the ultimate Shakti also. But I'm not a Bhakti Vedanta. I haven't studied. I don't have Bhakti, neither do I have knowledge. And I didn't cry to Krishna as much as Prabhupada did, so I'm way down. Yeah. 2 or 3, I don't know, many. So my point with Srivas Thakur is that he's in the Panchatattva. Okay, Bhakta Shakti. He's the representation of like the jivas of us. We can never really be in the position of Gadadhar, of Advaitacharya, Mahaprabhu. Advaitacharya chanted. Okay, how loud do you think you could chant? Like if you chanted as loud as you could, we could hear you in this room, obviously. Maybe we could hear you up on the balcony. Maybe Shobhamai might be like, perk her head up in the Pujari room. What is that? The loud yelling. But if we're downstairs in the kitchen of the ballroom hall, we need to have the special technology to like stream the thing because it's not very loud. Even when we're having the most loud kirtans, people can still sleep in this building, what to speak of other buildings. But if Acharya is chanting, when he was chanting so loud, it pierced the whole universe. So that's, that's really something. We can never attain that position. But we can attain the position of Srivas Thakur, who is simply maintaining himself, eating Krishna Prasad, chanting Hare Krishna, and doing a lot of kirtan. And there's an amazing pastime of his. There's 2 that are coming to mind, but I'll just say one because we're getting close to the end of the time. And Srivas Thakur is, I'm trying to think of the beginning of the story. He's somehow, Mahaprabhu is somehow talking to them, and he tests him first, which is something that in devotional service, if we're making advancement, will also happen to us, which is good. And so we should be ready for tests, and we should understand that Lord Chaitanya is never going to get a test that we can't pass. But he tests Lord Chaitanya, and Srivas Thakur is hosting Nityananda Prabhu. So why are you hosting this Nityananda? Like, you don't even know who he is. He's just some crazy avadut. Like, why are you in Malini, who's his wife? Like, what are you doing? Like, this guy's just an avadut. He's just crazy. He's just, you should just kick him out. Why? And then Srivas Thakur is thinking for a second, because Lord Chaitanya is the Lord of his life. If the Lord of your life says something like that, you take it very seriously. But he was thoughtful for a moment. He said, Lord, you must be testing me, because I know Nityananda is non-different. Yeah, Surupakam, the same, non-different from yourself. And he's very dear to you. So that's why I'm trying to serve him with like all my heart, mind, and soul. And so please, don't try to like trick me in this way. So Lord Chaitanya was like very pleased. He says, but how are you actually serving him? How are you maintaining him? How are you maintaining your family, Srivas? I don't see that you go out and do anything. Like, how are you? What's going on? Actually, this is similar. Many people, maybe they've said to you, Jimmy, why do you get a job? Why do you like they think that somehow that's like, the meaning of life. Of how can you do anything without getting a job? So Srivas Thakur did that. Like, and it's just like, I actually quite like it when devotees, sometimes they do this when people have very intimate relationships, or I guess I'll start when people have very like bad relationships. Like you'll start notice that like if a couple their relationship starts to sour, they start to yell at each other over everything, and it's almost like even though the distance is close, they have to yell to like to talk to the other person because the distance between the heart is very far. So it becomes like, why did you do that? Because they want to make an impression on the person, but they're not. But when people are very close, then you don't even necessarily need to say anything. Even just with the movement of the eyes, or someone knows, very good, like they can just know what they're thinking. So with devotees, when they develop really good relationships, or they develop good relationships with Lord, sometimes they like to communicate in these very dense or very like mysterious ways, which are only understandable. Like many times we hear in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, devotees are communicating with each other, and no one can really understand what they're saying. Like if Advaitacharya will just say something to Lord Chaitanya, he'll say something back, and all the devotees will be like very confused. But they're like, because they're so intimate, and they're just on a different level. Like even we had some twin brothers that were in our kirtan party for some time, and they would like be sitting in the kirtan like across from each other. They would just look at each other and like do a few head movements, and they would know exactly what each other are talking about. But you'd be looking like, what are they talking about? And so Srivas Pandit, he just went like that. So Lord Chaitanya like forced him. He's like, what do you mean? Like, don't just, why you clap 3 times? Why are you clapping? And so Srivas Thakur explained it. He said, well, my Lord, if somehow, we get donations and that's how we're surviving. But if it comes that I miss 3 meals in a row, I'm just gonna take myself and go in the Ganga and drown myself, because that would mean that you no longer want to maintain me. So he had so much faith in being maintained. That's one of the angas of Sharanagati, is the Lord is your actual maintainer. We think, get a job. They think because they're puffed up, like I was saying in the beginning, they have this opposite attitude. They think that they're the ones that are going to save themselves, that are actually providing for themselves, that are actually doing everything. Where it's not. They just have a desire, and the Lord in their heart, according to their karma, is giving them the fruits. They're giving their just rewards, for whatever they've done. So if they actually had some good desires and those came to fruition, that gave them some good karma. And now in this life, maybe they have a good job because of that. But it's not through so much of their own efforts. And so when people try to tell us get a job, it's really just their false ego cowering at the fact that they don't want to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that they just want to double down in, like Hiranyakashipu, and just stick with their depending on their own self. And so Prabhupada says, work hard. Why do we have to work? We have the most wealthy person as our father, as our like close intimate relative. Why do we ever have to work? And he also said in devotional service, someone asked Prabhupada, Giriraj Maharaj said this when we were at the thing, and it was like really cool to hear from him. And then who was the Laguna Beach temple president? Tukaram Prabhu then like gave a nice like purport. But so Giriraj Maharaj was explaining, someone asked Prabhupada, why is like devotional service like hard work? And Prabhupada said it's not hard work. Or no, he was explaining devotional service is like hard work plus like praying plus this and that. Prabhupada said, no, devotional service is not work. He readjusted. He said, okay, devotional service is a little bit of work. Prabhupada said, no, it's not work. So devotional service is not work at all. It's work means karma. It means that you want to actually build up some good credit, or you're just forced to do things by the circumstances and your own material desires. Whereas actual devotional service, it's you actually want to do something for Krishna. And so even if you work very laboriously and externally it seems very hard, it's actually you're completely happy to do it. like a mother is completely happy to take care of the child, even though there's so many laborious things. She actually gets a lot of joy out of it. Or at least they say that. I mean, so similarly, if we're actually performing devotional service, there's no work. So Srivas Thakur is clapping 3 times, saying, if I miss 3 meals, that means that you're done maintaining me, means I should give up my body. That's, that would be the indication that you're giving me. Because he's performing pure devotional service all the time. Like, we're putting on this festival today, and it's like a lot of work, and putting on Rath Yatra is like 10 times that amount of work. And all these different things we're doing every day, making a big Raj Bhog, making the deity worship nice, making the kirtans nice, making everything in this temple cleaner and more organized, and preaching. It's a lot of things to do. But it's all devotional service. And Srivas Thakur is completely engaged in all that. They always had all kinds of amazing kirtan festivals and different things where they're hosting devotees. And so because of that, the Lord is completely maintaining them. And so he had that complete faith. And not that like a householder should like refuse to work like a regular job. Like, we also shouldn't be so puffed up thinking we're on the level of Srivas Thakur that whatever we can do, it'll just maintain everything. I mean, we should be honest with our situation, because I can just imagine someone like hearing this about Srivas Thakur. Okay, I'm gonna quit my job and just clap 3 times. And, I mean, first of all, they're actually gonna like realize enough to be able to, I mean, yeah, it's just so many weird things. They might commit suicide, but it will be the wrong mood. And anyways, what we should understand from this is not that the intensity of Srivas Thakur's thing, but the actual, the idea behind it, because we don't have that kind of intensity, at least in our very low, Kanishta, or whatever level of devotional service we're on. We're not on the, the highest levels like he was, but at least we can understand that if we perform devotional service, that is better than any job, and it's actually our true nature, reconnecting with that, and the Lord will maintain us. And even in the face of, in that devotional service, so many things we have to do, we should remember, like in this verse, Lord Brahma is anxious, Prabhupada's anxious, Arjuna was anxious. And then what happened? They prayed to the Lord, they approached the Lord. We should also approach the Lord in our anxiety of not being able to do our service nicely, and not being qualified, and not making a devotional, advancement in devotional service. So many things that we have to actually be in anxiety about. And if we're Trinata Pisunich, if we're humble, we keep that humble mood, we'll be aware of those things, and we'll be worried about them, and we'll have to communicate to the Lord. We'll have to pray to Radha Govinda. Prabhupada said you could approach the deity, my dear Krishna, I have such and such problem. I don't think I can solve it. And that's the whole process of devotional service. Then Krishna will actually come. This is when we actually make advancement. Krishna will enliven us, and then we can become empowered. Like Lord Brahma was empowered. Now the whole world and all the different bodies in there. Arjuna was empowered. He killed everyone completely amazingly. And Prabhupada was empowered. He not only went to the Western English-speaking countries, but he went to the Eastern, all the other speaking countries too, around the world 14 times, and so amazingly. And so on this holy auspicious day of Srivas Thakur, we have an amazing festival, which we have to work really hard, but it's not work, it's devotional service. So try to remember that. If you get tired, then remember that you're only tired because maybe some bodily concept, or maybe we're not, sometimes devotees think they're too much transcendental, and then they don't sleep, and it's actually just a vata problem or something like that. So we have to be humble about our actual position and get enough sleep so we can have full vigor to be able to perform whatever Krishna and Prabhupada and our Guru and Radha Govinda want us to do. And there's only time for a 30-second comment or question. Anybody? Quick. Yes. A second story? Okay, second story in 30 seconds. Srivas Thakur is having all these kirtan festivals, and one of the festivals, his son dies out of nowhere, and he realizes that, and he's seeing the Mahaprabhu dancing and praying and crying, and like Mahaprabhu would get so angry if the kartals would mess up. Like would just be like a rage. And similarly at Indra Prabhu and his kirtans, no one could stop playing the kartals. You had to like figure out how to tie it on your thing for the whole, however long it was. If you stopped playing, you would get a fiery missile. And so he out of love for Mahaprabhu, he didn't want to interrupt the beat at all. He didn't want to interrupt anything. So his son even died, but he told his family, if you disturb the mood of the kirtan by crying or by doing anything that Mahaprabhu sees and it messes it up, I'm going to go and commit suicide. And then like hours and hours later, Mahaprabhu is like done dancing, and then he like is like realizing like they're very somber mood. Obviously he's omniscient, he knows everything. He's the Supreme Lord. So then he asked Lord Srivas Thakur, Srivas Thakur, how could I ever find someone like you? Or I mean, that's the conclusion of the story, but I can't say the middle of it because it's already past 9 o'clock. Om Tat Sat, thanks a lot. I have to be on time today. There's too many things going on. Everything I always need to hear is always the end of our. That's good.